interviewing. And I think the interviewing works perfectly for me because in my clinic work, I interview essentially when you're doing your clinical history, talking to clients. There is that interview aspect to it, which I knew the idea was there to move on to do a podcast, but I think I was just waiting for the right chance and opportunity to come. And then after the Disorder of the Day podcast, didn't go much. We didn't go anywhere with that. And then ADHD Care podcast came on, and I thought, what's a way to do a podcast and to share knowledge with clients, listeners on this fascinating subject, because there's so much you can cover. As you know, with ADHD, you can go in all sorts of directions. And it's been great up until now we're on episode 57.
Amazing. I love it.
Over the last couple of years. And still going strong. I was going to ask you in terms of like what is your, or two things actually, what are your highlights on doing a podcast or being a podcast host? What are your favorite interviews that you've done, if you have any? If there's one or a couple. Yeah, so let's start with the highlights. What's been your highlight?
Well, I'm super social. I love talking with people, and my family teases me. I will literally talk to anybody. When we're out at the grocery store, at the park, or whatever, I'll just strike up a conversation with anyone. I mean, I don't just walk up to people and randomly start talking to them. I do wait for, if the opportunity presents itself, I will grab it. I will grab it. Yes. But interestingly, I do find one-on-one conversations. I used to find them more challenging. I like a group better. And so I think a highlight for me has been finding comfort in pauses, and finding comfort in stopping and letting someone just talk, and letting someone just think for a bit, and then they come up with something that they might not have come up with if I had continued to talk, or if I had not let that pause go on a little bit. That's been a really neat discovery that has also really informed my coaching. I do notice that they help, that each other helps. Like my coaching helps my working on the podcast, and then my podcast has really not changed how I coach, but it has informed it. And I do sit in the quiet a little bit more, and let them think. Although I do have to say, for the podcast, I will edit those pauses out, because I don't want listeners to think that there's like a problem, that their phone has stopped working or something like that. So we do edit out, we do edit some pauses out like that, but just for listeners, just the listener's experience. So that's been really cool. And I think though the absolute highlight is when I get an email from from a listener, and they thank me for a topic, or they thank me for the podcast in general, and share something, really personal about how it's helped them. And I mean, that's why I wanted to do it. Coaching is not for everyone. It is expensive, and not everyone has the ability to hire a coach, or maybe even maybe they're not ready for it. Maybe they're not in that space yet. And so I really want to provide something that is accessible to anyone at any time. So, we try to make the podcast be really easy to listen to. I try very hard not to do anything super high level, complicated, that might be really difficult to listen to. I don't think that way. My brain doesn't work that way. And so, like, I don't even know if I would enjoy an interview like that. That would be difficult for me. Paying attention is really hard for me. So if something is super high level, that's like extra hard. And so I just try to make it really accessible wherever you are in your life. So I think that's been the true highlight is knowing that it is making a difference. So
what amazes me, for me, is the silent. I call them silent listeners. So they don't comment, they don't share, they don't, in terms of listening to your podcast, that is. But you then come across them, and then they will say something like, I've been following your journey from the start. I was amazed by this interview you did, or thank you, like what you said. I've had that where some people that I never thought, were listening to the podcast, were actually listening to it, but they don't share. And for anyone listening, starting out doing a podcast and maybe feeling like people are not listening, or they're not, no one is commenting or anything like that, that shouldn't discourage you, because not everyone has to comment. Sometimes people listen and it's still okay. They don't have to then repost it or share it or anything like that. And again, consistency is key. And yeah.
Another part of that that I'm assuming you've maybe experienced is when you don't get that that really when you're not aware that you are making a difference, I sometimes I find it difficult. I really have to trust myself. I have to trust that this is the work that I'm supposed to be doing, and that this is helping someone, even if I don't hear back from someone. Like I do have to really trust that. And there's a t-shirt that I got with a quote on it from Arlen Hamilton, who is she is a venture capitalist here in the United States that has a really, really beautiful life story where she was homeless and now she's, just super, super successful, and she is working to help other people like find the same success. And her quote is, "Be yourself so that those who are looking for you can find you." And so whenever I feel that imposter syndrome, or whenever I start to question, like, should I be doing this? Is this worth it? Is this worth? It's a lot of work, right? It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
But I just remember that the people who are looking for you need to find you, and so I just really rely on that and trust that, and I trust that that what we are doing, and the work that we are doing, it is really important, and even if it only helps one person, to that person, it's just so worth it. So when I get, I mean, like before every interview, I mean, I wasn't nervous today, but before every interview, pretty much, I am so nervous, even though I've done this so many times now. But what I tell myself before everyone, I tell myself two things. One is that they're just another person. It's just a person. Yes, maybe they wrote a book that you are a super fan of, or, maybe they're like I don't know, somebody famous, or maybe they're not someone famous, whatever. They are a person. They have similar challenges. They have gone through, they have a story. And then the other thing I tell myself is, you just don't know who you might help. And so that temporary discomfort that I have is completely worth it, because the message that the person that I'm interviewing brings to the podcast you just don't know. You don't know what kind of positive impact that you might have on someone. So I'm very happy to put myself in that uncomfortable position, in the hopes that, that maybe somebody will find some help.
If you think about like the power of interviewing someone, there's a lot that happens that people like. I'm sure this applies to anyone doing interviews in other situations, but there's obviously, you wanted to keep to the topic. You want to engage. You're thinking about the listeners, aren't you? You're thinking about the person that you're interviewing. You want to make sure that they're comfortable. You want to keep to the topic. You want to keep to the time. There's a lot that goes on that people might not realize by just listening to it. And then obviously we can edit the podcast after, but you want to keep engaging. I like what you said at the beginning, that you don't want to make it too complicated. You're always thinking about the listener. Okay, what are they going to take from this? We can have a discussion. But to me, that's why I always go back to, why am I doing this? Why am I talking to this person? What was the title of this podcast? What do we want to focus on? And to still stick to that. And there's this temptation to want to bring yourself too much into it, which is quite strange that I'm having to do that today, because I'm sure you listen to the podcast, but I don't usually do that, which is nice to be on the other side where I can talk freely. Because for me, it's about the guest. It's all about them. It's about me, the guest, and the listeners.
Yeah, that is hitting me hard, because when I interviewed Ellen Galinsky, the topic is, the development and executive function skills of adolescents. And that is my life. I work with adolescents. I have adolescents as children, and I'm an executive function coach, and I have ADHD. So all the things was just lined up. It was impossible for me not to bring myself into the conversation. And I ended up editing some things out because I felt like I had brought myself in too much. I had made it too personal. And at the same time, I thought, well, maybe my story would help someone. And so I had to, oh boy, did I have to think about Arlen's quote when I dropped that episode, because I mean, I cried, and I never thought I would, be, I never in a million years thought that I would allow myself to be that vulnerable while being recorded. And it was really hard for me to put that to, it felt really good to talk about it with her. And then it felt really difficult to put it out there as an episode. Because I felt like I was sharing too much. And so who knows? I don't know how it was received. I really hope that, that it did help somebody. And then the other thing is like, you lose a listener, you lose a listener. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
And the people who are looking for you will find you. Not everybody is looking for you. And that has helped me so much with any kind of imposter syndrome, is not everybody's going to, I don't listen to every podcast out there. There are podcast hosts who I can't stand. And so I don't listen to their podcasts, but they should not stop creating. They need to continue creating, because whatever they're making is just what their audience needs.
I think every host I've listened to has a different, unique style. Certainly in the neurodiverse field, if I think about Brandon Mahan, yourself, there's so many other podcast hosts I hear that all have a unique approach to how they interview, to what they bring to. And I think that's fascinating that listeners can gravitate. They might necessarily not like one person, but the options are now available. Certainly in the UK, we don't have many options. So I think that's one thing worth mentioning there. A lot of people have been searching for podcasts on ADHD. In the UK, you don't see many. Yeah. So again, that was another sort of avenue for me to tap on. And I feel it's a shame. I've been trying to encourage some of my colleagues or people that I know will be great as hosts to be able to do the interview, to run their own podcasts. And I feel there's so much to be spoken about. There's plenty to go around in this field, as you know. So
yes.
I'm trying to inspire.
Nobody will ever be stepping on someone else's toes, because you're right. Every perspective, every listener is going to have a different perspective, just like every person's experience with ADHD is different. And so, yes, please, if you are listening and you're considering creating a podcast that looks at executive function skills or ADHD or any kind of, neurodivergency, it's neurodivergency.
Neurodiversity.
Yeah.
Neurodiversity.
Yeah. Please join us, because the world needs more. It needs more awareness, more knowledge, more, more people talking about it.
And podcasts don't have to be long as well. People think, I have to do it for like an hour or whatever.
Like here we are, an hour.
Exactly. I've listened to some podcasts where like 10 minutes long. And for anyone, again, this is another tip. So start short podcast episodes, keep them short. Go straight to the point, focus on what you want to focus on, do some research, brainstorm if you want to have a guest, all of that, but keep them short and then expand them and, increase the length as you go along. Because the longer it becomes, sometimes if it's not engaging, and you lose listeners by that. And you end up just fucking around just because you want to fill the hour or the 45 minutes that you set out to do.
Mm-hmm. I always, when I listen, I also do the editing. I don't do the actual like tapping on the computer. I just type down the timestamps. But I always choose a section to take out. There's always something that can be taken out. That's not true. I don't always, but I often find something that can I take this out? Does it truly bring something really, really important to the conversation? And just to shorten it up a little bit, because it can get a little long.
Yeah. In terms of the guests, one of the highlights, you mentioned about your highlights, but what's been your favorites, if any, to date?
Yeah. I think, well, one of my favorites was talking with the CEO of Beyond Booksmart, just because he is a great storyteller. So that was really fun. I
Yeah.
was wicked nervous. I was wicked nervous. And I think it was only episode 6 or something like that. So I was thinking I would love to interview him again now that I'm feeling a little bit more confident. Um, I think my favorite was the episode on memory because working memory is my nemesis. It is my most biggest challenge, and it just impacts my every single day. And so it was really lovely. I got to talk with Dr. Sherry All, who is in Chicago, and she was just so funny and fun, and I learned so much from her. And then I felt a lot better about my own memory afterwards. So, and also she connected me with a woman who ended up ultimately diagnosing me with ADHD. So, um, and a lot of people say like research is me search, and I do think that many of the topics that I end up getting a speaker for is because it's something that I'm personally interested in. So
Yeah.
that one especially hit home.
Yeah.
What about
Yeah.
you, Archie? What about
For
you?
me, wow. Okay. I bet you some
Haha.
people are gonna be like, "Oh gosh, yeah. What about us? What about us?" So out of the 56 episodes that we've done, there've been quite a lot of highlights in there. I know it's a round and winded sort of answer that I will be giving you there because how I've done my podcast, there've been a few that I'll probably say would stand out. One is the Professor Russell Barkley.
Oh yeah,
uh,
I saw you got
just
him.
because
Nice.
yeah, I think just the fact that I managed to get him for him to
Mm,
agree, because if
yeah.
anything, people didn't realize that was me asking for him to come on for a good year before he actually came on,
Wow.
because that's how busy he was to find time
Yeah.
to, and then when he agreed to come on, again, it's the preparation that I had to do because obviously this is someone that me who've gone into the field of ADHD, I've respected, read his books, watched his conferences, been to a few of his about I did it online. I haven't actually had the pleasure of meeting him in person or to go to a
Mm.
conference where he was presenting, but certainly I've followed him for a long time, and I respect him. And then to have to sit down and talk to him about I was remembering like trying to create questions like, where do you start with Russell Martin?
Yeah, where do you start?
Exactly, and he didn't need any preparation whatsoever. Like
No, I'm
some people
sure.
would say, "Oh yeah, send me a list of questions. What do you want to talk about?" He literally said, "Let's talk about anything."
No, I love
And
it.
if you listen to the podcast, he had the answers to all of it and how he
Yeah.
explains things. I was fascinated by it.
Yeah.
I'm seeing if I can bring him on. This is obviously something I'm working on currently to bring him on for another second edition.
Love
He's
it.
retired now. He's completely
Ah,
like stopped doing, interviews and podcasts and things. So yeah, but I think one final send off, I'm working on that.
I
So
love
yeah,
it. Good
definitely
luck.
that's been a complete highlight. I enjoyed most of my interviews, honestly. Like they're all different.
Yeah.
The good thing is I had contacts. There's so many people I've come across through my work, and I felt, okay, this person would be quite good to speak to. We've referred clients to each other, but in some cases, what we tend to start doing in our clinic, we signpost some of our clients to listen to the podcast. So if I have a client who's having issues with diet or occupational therapy support and things like that, I'll be okay. I interviewed an occupational therapist, so you can listen to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and certainly the ones that have been out on the field, as I like to call it, interviewing people when I've gone to conferences, they've been fun because I think I like that. That's very different. I think out of all of the ones I went to, the chat ones have been really amazing,
Oh, yeah.
whereby they were unscripted. I didn't know who I was going to meet on that day. I was literally just walking around as you saw with the microphone.
Uh,
I think when I got the green light from what are the organizers again for Chad? Ari
oh,
Tuckman,
yeah.
Barbara, because I sent them an email before. I didn't just rock up with the mic.
Oh, that's good. That
Yeah.
was smart.
They would have
Like,
thrown
who's
me
that
out.
guy? Yeah, they would.
Exactly. Like to work for CNN or something. No, or FDA. Speaking of FDA, there's someone from FDA when I on the last conference, but
Oh,
um,
no way.
yeah. So when I got the green light, so I wanted to take the podcast on that scale. I knew that I was going to the States. I was like, okay. I was thinking about the listeners, and I was thinking there's some people, not just other professionals, but even like, parents or anyone who couldn't go to those conferences. And what is it that we can do to try and give them the highlights? And that's kind of how I thought about the idea. And I was like, let's go for it.
I really enjoyed watching. I watched the YouTube videos because I was there in the exhibit hall, and so I didn't really get a chance to go to many presentations and to really talk to many other people unless they came up to our booth. And I really enjoyed it because it gave me like a little taste of what else was going on at the conference. So thank you. And I loved meeting with you. That was that talk about a highlight. Meeting you was like such a highlight of that conference. And my colleagues too. We just enjoyed your visit to our booth so much. It was so fun. I couldn't wait to do what we're doing right now because I just really like felt that a really nice connection with you right away. So I'm
Yeah,
so glad
no,
that we got
thanks.
to make this happen.
Of course, absolutely. And yeah, again, that was great. If anyone wants to watch it, there is a clip of us, me and Hannah, talking. I think it's about 10 minutes long. It's on the ADHD Care YouTube channel and our
And
social
it's easy to
media.
find because it's the first one, right? I think it was like the first one of one of
It
the
is
it's like the first clip within one of
the
the
first clip.
videos.
Yeah, yeah,
That was so
absolutely. So,
fun.
so that was great. That was great, and how welcoming all your colleagues were as well. Because
Uh,
sometimes when you approach, you don't gauge how people's moods are going to be, and certainly for you guys, you were very chatty and welcoming, and wanted to come on and talk about what you offer and things like that. So yeah, that was really great. But I think
yeah.
for me, what I was having to juggle is going into the seminars and talks, whilst also having to do the podcast
Yeah,
interviews as well.
right.
I don't
Yeah.
know how I did it.
I don't know how you did it either.
I know. So I remember I think the first chat, which was back in 2022, I was getting people's numbers. We were doing kind of talking via WhatsApp and arranging times to meet up. This time round, it was literally about just grabbing people. It wasn't
Love
like
it.
before it
Yeah.
was all planned because I'm happy to do it by myself. So hopefully next time I'll have like a person I can take with me who's able to
Nice. Follow
organize
you
it all,
around.
follow
Yeah.
me around and say, oh,
Yeah.
actually, you need to go and talk to that person, the interviewer that. So yeah, but it was nice. It was fun. But it's ADHD conference, so it's unscripted. It's yeah, how
It's
people listen to
ADHD.
it. It's very ADHD when you hear
Yeah.
it. um,
It was so great.
yeah. But I think, yeah, certainly the feedback that I got from the conference and when people listened back to it, even like the organizers listened back to it, they were amazed by it. And I was like, oh, great, thank you.
Yeah, you did a
Which is
great
good.
job.
So, yeah.
Yeah, please do it
Um,
again.
I will. I'll be coming back certainly for this year. I'll do the same thing again, just to try. And obviously, I'm conscious of time, and I'm sure some of our listeners we're starting to lose a few of them along the way. It's been great.
Congratulations to anyone who is still here. We love you.
Yeah, they're stuck with it. But this is the other side of us. I'm sure, like people
That's
don't hear
right.
this
Yeah.
side. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's great. I love it.
um, in terms of like what next, in terms of you, your podcast, your career, everything, like let's talk about where you're going, what you're working on currently in terms of like what you
Yeah.
expect.
Yeah, that's so funny. Someone asked me that recently. I am so happy with what I'm doing right now. I really love it. I love the podcast. I love all of my colleagues. My clients right now, oh my gosh, I just wish I could talk about them all day. My clients are just the most amazing people, and being able to be a partner with them on their journey is just it's just incredible. I love it. I love every minute of it. And I don't know, I'm just really excited to see what opportunities putting myself out there brings. I mean, if I had never put myself out there to do the podcast, we wouldn't be having this conversation. I wouldn't be presenting to the Los Alamos National Laboratory next week. I mean, it's
Yeah,
really cool when you take that risk and you put yourself out there. You just don't know what might come your way. So I'm open. I am open to welcoming whatever is coming towards me, and also continuing what I'm doing right now. So yeah, yeah,
amazing. Do you
yeah.
know what? Do you know what I've been saying to people like I want to do, and I think I've been saying this for the last 2 years.
Oh, you
I
got to make
want
it
to.
happen. What is it?
There's me bashing on the table there. I want to write a book.
Yes, me too. I want to write a
Oh
book
wow,
too.
amazing.
Yes. What
Yep.
do you want to write a
So
book about?
Something to do with ADHD, obviously, but yeah, I want to. Part of me was thinking, do I focus it more around my personal experience being a professional working in this field and also having a child with ADHD and my experience of how the two worlds marry, come together, and how I'm juggling it all, or do I just stick to professional and pick something that I want to focus on? Certainly, but certainly when I spoke to this doctor that I met at the Child Conference, he received the Lifetime Achievement Award, not 2023, but 2022, Larry Jones, because he's written a book actually. Or is it? I think I can find it. There you go. It's called, Falling Through the Ceiling. Oops, it's blurry.
Ooh,
there you
that's
go.
Okay. I see it.
Yeah. So it's called Falling Through the Ceiling. I've mentioned a few times about this book on this podcast. So he's a psychiatrist based in the States, and he's talking about raising 3 kids with ADHD. And Dr. Jones himself also has ADHD, and how that has been an interesting journey for him. So part of me was trying to maybe think about something like this, because that inspired me when I read this book. It's amazing. And just, hearing all the funny stories of, him losing things, losing the kids and all of that.
I bet he's got some good stories.
Yeah. So yeah, that inspired me. So maybe something relating to, as I said, family and myself and professional career. Or I don't know. What do you think?
Good
How
luck.
about you?
I don't know. Part of me wants to write like a thriller, which is like not anything to do with ADHD. Maybe I'll write a thriller about someone who has ADHD.
Okay.
But I also I love the idea of a book that just so like in the podcast I try to just be really real about just try to be really real and my own struggles and my own challenges, and then what works, what has worked for me, just my own experience, what I've learned through coaching. So I don't know, maybe something to do with that. But I'll tell you, if I write something, it's going to be very easy to read. Because I want it to be something that someone could pick up and just pick up and put down, and not be something that's kind of like a slog to get through, even if it's interesting. So that's a goal of mine, is whatever I write, whether it's my thriller or my ADHD book, I want it to be just like a fun read. Yeah.
Exciting. So we can egg each other on to write.
There we go.
Set a deadline.
I love it. Yes, right. We can be our accountability partners.
Exactly. And we could do a book signing at one of the Child conferences in the next coming year.
That'd be great.
Imagine that. Yeah, I always see people that when I go there, they're doing all these book signings, and I'm like, I wish I had my book over there as well. It could be like people queuing up to get a picture with me, and not that I want that fame, but it's. I think if we can, the fact that we're doing the podcast, the fact that we're reaching to people, same thing as a book. You never know who's going to reach and who's going to read it, and so that's one of my ventures. Certainly, I think just to keep going for me anyway, in terms of what's next, keep doing the podcast. Certainly, we have exciting interviews that we have lined up. That's all I can say. Cool. I'm not going to spoil the surprise for people, but
please don't.
That's so great. There's a lot of exciting projects around that, and
And do you think? I want to do more. Do you think as you're? Oh, sorry. You go.
Pause. It's an ADHD podcast after all. You can interrupt. You can go off on tangents. Because I know what I'm going to say. So you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh wait, what was I going to say? Oh yes. Do you think? I wonder. It'll be interesting to see as your son, gets older, if that will inform your own personal interests in who you interview, and if how that will guide your practice as well. Just watching him grow and become himself as an adolescent with ADHD and autism.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that part of the reason why I wanted to do the book about sort of him was to capture that. I wanted to capture his journey from pre-diagnosis to where we are now, to him going into kind of like, high school and things like that. And then obviously him becoming an adult, because obviously there are challenges and things that it hasn't been a straightforward journey for him, and certainly for all us as parents. So, to be able to document his journey and to not all about, doom and gloom challenges in there, but highlight some of the, the exciting things that he's managed to overcome, and the things that we thought he's going to struggle, he's not going to, achieve. He's managed to, achieve those things. So yeah, I think you're right. That will be fascinating in terms of how I think he's already influencing how the way I work, the things that I want to start thinking about when it comes to, for example, with education. That's something that I'm really quite keen to have those close links with schools and things around neurodiversity, ADHD. I want to, I used to do lots of trainings. I used to go to educational facilities like schools and raise awareness on this thing, on ADHD. So I want to go back and do more outreach work, essentially. So,
and that's what's so nice about at least something that I really am grateful for the podcast, is that it does give you some cred, right? Some street cred, which I see as power. So it's we have this privilege of saying like, hey, I host a podcast, and this is this this power that I have where I can help amplify voices of people who aren't necessarily, being people aren't hearing them, or making awareness of, of different topics and different aspects of people's lives. And so you can use that, your experience, and also your just that sort of like credibility that you have, and say like, hey, I have this, what can I do to help, to help this community, or whatever the group is.
Yeah. But I think there's a gap between us professionals, because we know a lot of other professionals that work in this field that specialize in all these different fields, but most of our listeners, some of our ADHD clients, they don't have access to those expertise. So sometimes when I go to conferences, which is all just for professionals, and you hear this person talking about something fascinating, you think, wow, this is fascinating. That's why I try and then want to then have an interview with that person to get our listeners to listen and go, wow, this is the professor in so and so, and they're talking about this particular field, and they bridge that gap, which is something that I really like. And when listeners come back and go, that talk with, Dr. Russell Ramsey that I did the other day was amazing, because, he was talking about all of adult ADHD. And I did one last week as well with an adult who is in his early 60s. He was diagnosed like 5 years ago. He's lived a life of undiagnosed ADHD to only being diagnosed at that age. So, he's written a book about his journey as well. So all of that, it's when you come across people and you think their story is amazing, I just want to bring them on and talk about their journey and experience, and how that might then, you might get another listener who's gone through around the same age as them, kind of going, because that's what happened to him. He listened to some podcast, he didn't know about ADHD, and then that made him start to look into his own life. Anyway, I don't want to spoil it for the listeners, because that's the next episode that's coming out. But so yeah, it's things like that. That's the beauty of doing what we do.
That's right. And so now he gets to live the rest of his life with this knowledge, and I'm sure his life is so much better for it, because he heard that one podcast. Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's really important.
Excellent. Any final words before we run things off? Anything else?
No, just thank you so much, Archie, for all the work that you do. I'm sure everyone that the people that you help in your clinic. Do you call it a clinic? Is that the right word? Sorry. Okay.
Yeah, clinic.
In your clinic, and and then all your listeners. And I'm so glad I met you, and I'm so glad we got to have this conversation today. And I hope that people get a chance to check out my podcast too, Focus Forward. And I don't know, I'm just this is great.
Yeah. Where can people listen? Like, what platforms is your podcast
Yeah,
on?
we're on all the platforms. There is another podcast called Focus Forward. It is a business podcast. I know nothing really. I mean, I own a small business with a friend of mine. We teach embroidery and sewing and fiber arts classes. But I don't. Beyond that, I don't know much about business. So it's not the Focus Forward business podcast. We are the Focus Forward executive function podcast, and
Yeah.
we're on all the podcasts, all the platforms.
And your social media handles and website?
Yeah, it's all through Beyond Booksmart. So you can go to beyondbooksmart.com/podcast and you can find you can find all the episodes there with the show notes too. And then on Instagram and on TikTok and on Facebook, we are Beyond Booksmart, either Beyond Booksmart by itself or Beyond Booksmart Coaching. And I know I haven't created my own Instagram handle, partially because one thing that's really challenging for me is I actually have a 20-minute limit on my Instagram on my phone because I will get very lost in Instagram. Mostly BTS videos. I really like the band BTS.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, you like K-pop?
I do. I love K-pop.
Wow, I've got a friend who's obsessed with K-pop. I actually went to a concert to see John Cook.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh
yeah,
my gosh.
yeah. I did. Yeah, yeah. That's another podcast you're thinking that.
That is another
okay.
podcast. Yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
BI. I've seen BI in concert as well.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah. So,
I'm gonna go see Tara by Together
okay.
in the beginning of June. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Oh, okay. There you go.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I say you and my friend, you definitely make best friends.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, please connect me with them.
Okay.
So I haven't started a separate account for Focus Forward, mostly because of that. It's a self-preservation thing. I just really can't let myself get too much access to Instagram. So I don't know. Maybe I'll do it one day.
Wow. Okay. Do you know what? I realized I completely gone off script. So all the questions I asked, I didn't ask any questions on there.
That's okay.
None
I love it.
whatsoever. And that's fine. Yeah, exactly. So,
fine. It's life.
and you know, yeah, that is life. But what I want to do next time, I want to bring it on because there's a few things I want to talk to you about more around your work, certainly, because I know you focus on executive functioning, that's your specialty, and certainly around students' success moving into college and just executive functioning for anyone in school, students really, because that's a big area to discuss. So I hope that we can, definitely bring you back on and we can do that.
I would love that. Yeah.
Amazing. And what part of the States are you based? Where are you?
I'm in Connecticut, which is for anyone who doesn't know, it's on the East Coast. Yep. We're about an hour and a half from New York City. So we get access to all the good concerts there. Just take the train in.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Excellent. I've never been to Connecticut, actually, funny enough.
It's beautiful. All the flowering trees are just starting to come out now. And it's really beautiful. We're right on the coast. I just live a couple miles from the beach, so it's really nice.
Oh, nice. Handy. Excellent. Yep. Well, we've got the down gloomy weather in the UK right now. It's raining, windy. No, April showers.
I'm actually going to be in London. I'm going to be in London in July for a couple days. Yep. Okay. Yeah, we're doing a little bit of a mini European tour this summer. So we're gonna fly or take the train from Paris to London just for a couple of days and then head home from there. So nice.
Well, is that your first time coming to the UK?
Yes, I've never been. I've never been to the UK. I've been all over Europe, but I've never been to the UK. So
you're coming at the right time, actually. Yeah, it's summer, so
a few days where it will be sunny.
Well, I'm not sure what weather you get in those 2 days, but it might be raining.
Yeah, I hope not.
Exactly. So but enjoy, and we'll connect again. And this has been great. I enjoyed it myself as well. Not to be on the kind of hosting kind of hot seat. It didn't feel like I was hosting. It just felt like we were just having a conversation, which is good.
I loved it. It was really great.
And
maybe I'll just copy it and drop this on mine.
But yeah, you should. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
so
Yeah.
Archie, where can people find you?
I would be. That's the first time someone asked me that. So anyone wants to listen to the podcast, it's our ADHD Care podcast. We are on all the podcast streaming platforms, Google, Apple Podcast, and Spotify. Um, yeah, so just search for ADHD Care Podcast. You can find us on our social media as well. Again, it's at ADHD Care Podcast on Instagram. There's a TikTok page that we have as well. There's a YouTube page, but I think for that one, you need to search for ADHD Care and then LTD at the end of that. So you can watch all the clips from the previous episode that we've done. And yeah, you can check out the amazing Hannah, who featured in one of our podcast episodes that I did that we talked about briefly earlier when I was over in the States at the Chat conference. So yeah, and certainly for our website is adhdcare.co.uk. Nice. Anyone wants to check out what we do.
And before we go, I just have to say I'm really proud of myself that I have this weird thing that I do where I pick up people's accents when they're talking to me. And I'm just really proud. I don't think I picked up your accent. So.
No, you don't sound English.
I still sound American.
No, you do. Yeah, exactly. I would have been
you sound way better than me.
I might need to listen back to it and make sure that you did. Even if you did, it doesn't matter.
I was waiting tables once in a family from England I was waiting there. They were my customers, and they asked me a question, and I said, "Oh, I don't know." And then I was so embarrassed, but they didn't even notice because I just sounded like them.
Yeah. Wow, you did it really well there. Just how he's like, yeah, yeah. So yeah, it's been great. Well, you never know when you come off this call and then you go back to whatever you've been doing. Everyone will watch me. Well, you also, yeah.
Have you been to England recently? Oh no, just hanging out with Archie.
Exactly. Anyway, Hannah, it's been great. Good to catch up.
You too, Archie.
And we'll
all right. Sounds good. Cool. Yeah.
Perfect. All right. Great. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you so much, Archie.
No
Take care.
See you later. Bye. 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 Bye.